This episode is brought to you by Communications Training for Coffee Teams, a new Map It Forward workshop tailored to get your team communicating more confidently to improve general mental health as well as business profitability. Click the link in the show notes for further details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and today is episode 5 of our 5-part series about whether we think that there is going to be a global financial crisis or not. We have yet not decided, but I'm joined for this episode with Carley Garner from DeCarley Trading. Carley, we are going to be talking about in this episode de-risking from global events. Is that possible at this point?
It's very difficult to do. A couple things that I can say is, in my business practice, I always prepare for the worst and hope for the best, because ultimately the only thing that we can control is ourselves. We can't control anything around us, but we can control how we prepare for something to happen and how we react to things that do happen. And the only way for us to react in a constructive manner if something goes wrong is to have the capital to do it, and to be in a place comfortable enough. Again, we talked about running a lean operation. If you're running lean and you're comfortable and you have money to backstop yourself if something goes wrong, mentally you're going to be in a better position to make proper decisions. If you're under duress and money's tight, you're going to panic, and nobody makes good decisions when they're panicking.
Is this a time to be, because you mentioned something in a previous episode where there is going to be opportunity that shows up. Is de-risking early on going to be the thing that helps you see the opportunities when they show up?
Yes. And each business is different. And so it's for some businesses, it's a lot easier to take advantage of downswings than others. So this is just kind of a blanket statement. But I'm in the brokerage and trading business, and it's a mental game. But for small business owners, it's also a mental game. The only way to be in a position to act aggressively, in other words, playing offense, not defense, when that opportunity arises, is to put yourself in a mental state, in a financial state that's comfortable to take advantage of those opportunities. If you're already on your back foot, either mentally or financially, when things hit the fan, you're going to be on your back foot. You can't react. All you can do is try to survive. And that's really honestly where the big money is made or lost, is just that the difference in mindset and the difference in positioning.
Yeah. One of my biggest business tools that I teach through a lot of my consulting is the idea of equanimity. And for those who haven't heard the term equanimity before, it's about being very present and allowing yourself to experience something as it shows up without influencing it and allowing it to leave. So, if anxiety shows up, it's about being present in whatever it is that you're experiencing. Experience that anxiety, but don't grab onto it and hold onto it and, push it to the deepest depths of the way that anxiety can be experienced. The anxiety will come, the anxiety will be experienced, and the anxiety will leave. We are in for some very interesting times ahead. We've been through interesting times, and this is a time to kind of, in my opinion, and what I'm working with my clients on, is be very equanimitous so that you're ducking and weaving rather than copping the blows as they come, because there are going to be some opportunities, and if you're not ready for them, you will miss them. One thing that I experience, Carley, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, is that people feel guilty when opportunities show up during times when perhaps the masses are experiencing some suffering. What has been your experience around witnessing this, and how can people change their mindset on that?
I too have experienced that. And most recently during the COVID shutdowns in the US, the economy was mostly shut down for 6 months to 8 months, even longer in some areas. And people were really feeling a lot of pain. A lot of small businesses were suffering. And it just so happened that our business was able to continue to work, because we work from a home office. We keep everything lean. And because of that, we're able to just business as usual. And I felt a little bit of guilt over that. And then I also felt some guilt in that during that same time, the stock market, for lack of a better word, crashed. The bond
Mm-hmm.
market crashed, and I was in a position where I had de-risked prior to that. And I was able to put money to work at really cheap prices. And so I felt a little bit guilty about that. But after thinking about it, for some time, that's we all have choices to make. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are taking additional risks when everything is hot, and I'm not the type of person that does that. So I left some money on the table when other people were enjoying, um, Bitcoin success or whatever it was. And so it's just two different ways of approaching the world. And in some ways, being aggressive all the time, and when economies and markets are hot, sometimes that pays off better than the way I do it. But everybody has their chance at thriving in different times.
Mm-hmm.
I just prefer to be the type of person that can sleep better at night. So I'd rather de-risk when the economy or the markets give me the ability to do so, and then put it back on when other people might be suffering. And unfortunately, it took me a long time to get to that point. I paid my dues, so I don't feel guilty anymore. But I hope to encourage other people to try to behave in that manner.
And if somebody is looking to de-risk, where do you think they should start?
This is more of a personal finance
Mm-hmm.
approach, but the best way to de-risk is to pay off all your debt. I'm talking credit cards, houses, cars, zero debt. If you have zero debt and zero expenses in both business and personal life, you can really honestly absorb almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever comes your way, you're probably going to be able to handle it. And a lot of people look at that as some sort of, the theory is, and they even taught us this in finance classes. In finance, they teach you shouldn't pay off your house or your debt because you
Mm.
can earn more money in the stock market or, other investments. But the reality is those investments come with risk. And especially what we've seen in the last couple of years, where the NASDAQ is up 20, 30% and then down 70% the next
Mm.
year. That's a lot of risk that I'm not willing to stomach. And my business and personal life has no interest in dealing with that either. So if you're paying off debt, it's almost like earning that same interest. So for example, I'm just going to use a simple example, a
Mm-hmm.
car. If you were paying 5 or 6% on your car and you pay that loan off, that's almost like, it basically is like earning 5 or 6% on an investment. So I encourage everybody to pay off their debt first. And then once all that's done, maybe you can consider taking on some risk in the markets, but that's a good first step.
A lot of what I see in a lot of small business, whether it's in the coffee industry or not, is that people surprisingly are not aware of their financial position. What do you say to people? I mean, before you can de-risk,
Mhm.
you kind of got to know what your risk is, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
I think that in our society, and I assume it's like this in most developed
Mm.
countries, we are kind of encouraged to take on debt. We're
Mm-hmm.
encouraged to take a loan out and drive a nice car, and our business should have nice cars and all these
Mm-hmm.
fancy things. Um, but I'm not sure that's really the most constructive way to go about it. I mean, most businesses or people can't pay cash for a car, but if they pay off their loan early, they're several steps ahead than their
Mm-hmm.
competitors. Um, so I think we have to kind of think outside the box. And we do this, and I mean, we're humans. We do this literally in everything we do. We
Mm-hmm.
just go with the flow, and this is how it's always been done, and this is how everyone else does it. But we should take a step back and see where we can lower our expenses, lower our risk, and move from there, regardless of what anyone else is doing. We should be doing our own thing.
And that's the key kind of takeaway right now is I think a lot of the reason why we're in the situation that we are in a lot of our societies is because people are following the trends. People are doing, it's a FOMO thing.
Yes. Yes.
I wish people could hear the look on your face then.
There's been way too much FOMO in the last 3 years, just way too much.
And even in the coffee industry, and F&B in general, people get tired or they get laid off from their corporate job. They want to go into an easier life. easier life in inverted commas, and they're like, I know how to make a really great espresso at home, and my wife makes amazing muffins, and so I'm going to go and open a cafe because how hard can it be? Everybody does it.
Yeah, of course. And they're always
Carley
busy,
and I both shaking
right?
our heads. Right. They're always like, there's people in there all the time. The cafe's beautiful. They're on Instagram. There's so much money to be made in coffee. Folks, 3% net profit is the average amount that a cafe that's actually making profit is making. 3% net profit. I want you to hear that sobering truth. And then I want you to tack that to 6% inflation. And now let's see how great you feel about opening a cafe. I mean, this subject makes me rather angry, so I'm going to just dial it back a little bit. The saturation in our market is killing more small businesses than ever. And I think that we're in for, this is where I kind of want to wrap up the series of like, do we think that there's some pain ahead? I generally think that this pain has been coming for quite some time, whatever it's going to be. I think that there are going to be a number of small businesses that are wiped out globally because of a lot of the kicking the can down the road that has happened. What are your thoughts, Carley? Do you think that the next couple of years are going to be painful?
I think we get beyond the next couple of years. At some point, it's going to get painful. I just don't think it's yet. I think at some point, I think they still have a few more tools in the tool shed to push this charade out. But then again, we should always prepare for that not to be the case. But I do think that we survive this time around. But the more we do this, the worse it's going to become eventually when it does come to roost.
And it's not necessarily that this banking crisis is going to be the thing that causes the tsunami to happen. It could well be contained. We may well coast the next couple of years and everything's fine, and then something else causes a contagion that just blows everything up, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we don't know what we don't know. In 2019, we thought life was fabulous, right? And then right around the corner was COVID, and then we have World War III, and I mean, just keeps coming. So we don't know what we don't know. We'll just have to wait. We just
told everyone our Instagram conversations. Carley, where can everyone find DeCarley Trading?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Carley Garner, CarleyGarner, or you can visit our website, DeCarleyTrading.com. That's DeCarley Trading.com.
You can check the show notes or find Carley on Bloomberg every now and then when she's appearing and having conversations, or on Bloomberg. Thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. This was a big ask of me to say to you, hey, listen, I don't understand what the fuck's going on. Can you come and tell my audience about it in the middle of everything that you've got going on? So thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. It was fun.
So I'm not going to ask Carley to sign this off, but we are going to kind of sort of do it together. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope that you learned something. Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Told you I'd mess it up.
Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day, folks. Thanks for tuning in, friends. There are 2 ways you can support this podcast. Firstly, become a paid member of our YouTube channel. Secondly, you can join our Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video before you leave, and check the show notes for more information. Now, this is what you should check out next.